Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, it's the post-game pod. The Timberwolves survive against the Sixers. Ant plays the hero. Rudy's fantastic. We'll break down how the Wolves got to 5 straight wins coming up next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. The Timberwolves played on Saturday. They beat the Sixers and won their 5th straight. It was an eventful game. At times a sluggish game, but once again, it was Anthony Edwards. It was Rudy Gobert leading the way for the Wolves. We'll break down each of their performances, the positives, the negatives, but now the Wolves have won 5 straight. They're right in the thick of things. Legit chance they can stay out of the play-in in the West. We'll break all that down in the show today, too. First, a big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder, you can subscribe to the Locked On Wolves newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. It's a daily newsletter, one stop for Ultimate Wolves and NBA coverage delivered right to your email inbox. Subscribe right now at LockedOnDaily.com. All right. So the Timberwolves came into Philadelphia on Saturday night with a 4-game winning streak, and there was a lot to like about how the Wolves were playing going in. Of course, there was the big Nuggets win last week. There was a, relatively kind of ho-hum run-of-the-mill 15-point win over a Brooklyn team that they should have beaten by more. That was really kind of touch and go until the fourth quarter on Thursday in game 2 of the road trip. And now in Philly on Saturday, and basically everybody was out, right? Like nobody played for the Sixers. Obviously, Embiid and Paul George have been out for a while. And Tyrese Maxey, who's recently shut down, likely for the season. Plenty of other rotation guys. Like there were 2 to 3 NBA players actually playing for the Sixers on Saturday. Of course, Quentin Grimes is fantastic. Other guys like Lonnie Walker, I've always liked, of course, had some up and down years as a, I think, lottery pick, first round pick with the Spurs. A couple of guys on 10-day deals, right? Marcus Bagley, Colin Castleton. This was a kind of a hodgepodge for the Sixers, and a Sixers team that had been scuffling too. Philadelphia, given all the injuries, had lost how many in a row? I believe they lost 9 in a row coming into the game. So there was really no reason that this game should have been as close as it was. And I think that's kind of the headline here is the Wolves hung on to win by 5. And like the Wolves defense was legit good in the first quarter. Helps that the Sixers aren't good and don't have a good offense as currently constructed, who's healthy and on the floor. But the Wolves were pretty locked in defensively in the first quarter. It was the middle stages of the game that were kind of an abomination. It's probably, I don't think that's too strong for how the Wolves played defensively in the second and third quarter. First quarter was good. The start of the fourth quarter was good. And then the middle chunk of the game and the close were atrocious. And I think we have to start there. And I want to talk about the brilliance of Ant and really the continued brilliance and excellence of Rudy Gobert, who was just phenomenal in this game once again. But really nobody else came to the party. And I think we have to start there. I think that's what's most relevant as the Wolves come down the home stretch of the season and battle for position in the Western Conference. The kind of lackadaisical effort on the defensive end of the floor for more than half of the game. I'm going to say the whole second and third quarter and really the second half of the fourth quarter. It was just the offense was better than the defense was bad down the stretch for Minnesota. Early in the fourth quarter, the Timberwolves actually built a bit of a lead. Minnesota was up by 11 with 4.5 minutes to play. And again, yes, they should have been up by more, but they got this thing to double figures. It was kind of bouncing between 8 and 10 points for most of the early stages of the fourth. And then with 4.5 minutes left, the Wolves go up by 11. There's an out-of-bounds call that initially goes against the Wolves. It's overturned on the floor to call it out correctly off of the Sixers. However, the Sixers challenge it. They get approximate foul on Julius Randle, and it goes from Wolves ball up 11 with 4.5 minutes left to Sixers ball down 11 with 4.5 minutes left, which, doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but that was kind of that stoppage and that overturn of the call is what led to the Sixers getting back in the game. Because then immediately following that, Philadelphia scored on 8 of 9 possessions. This is a Sixers team that has no business scoring. Like Quentin Grimes and I guess you could say Lonnie Walker are the only two legitimate NBA caliber offensive players that were on the floor for the Sixers in this game. If we take season-long data for the Sixers team, it's not super helpful because of everyone that wasn't on the floor for Philadelphia. But if we like the only things the Sixers have been good at as an offense all year is not turning the ball over and getting to the free throw line. And nobody on this team, as currently constructed, gets to the free throw line. So Minnesota shouldn't have any problem slowing the Sixers down. They did hold them to just 15 free throws on the night, and sure enough, Philly didn't turn it over. They got a lot of shots up, but they were way too efficient. And Quentin Grimes was phenomenal down the stretch of this game. So the Wolves are up 11 with just over 4 minutes to play. Gershon Yabusele hits a bucket. The Wolves split a pair of free throws on the other end. Quentin Grimes hits a 3. Randle hits a 2. Quentin Grimes hits a 3. Randle misses a 2. Quentin Grimes hits another 3. It's now a 3-point game with just over 2 minutes to play. After McDaniels, who we'll talk about, had a really bad game, misses a jumper on the other end. Yabusele hits a couple of free throws. It's now a 1-point game. Anthony Edwards hits a 3. Ant scores again, and they expand the lead a little bit. And it does look like they're going to put it away. But then Quentin Grimes scores another 5 points with just under a minute to play. And all of a sudden, it's a game again. Quentin Grimes hits a 3, and it's with 31 seconds left, and it's a 2-point game. The Wolves call timeout, and then the heroics of Anthony Edwards. And another, like, there was a game last week, and I don't remember which one off the top of my head. Might have been it was the Denver game. Just on Tuesday when the Wolves won in double overtime. And the execution was actually miserable on like 4 of the 5 crunch time offensive possessions after a timeout. But they escaped with the win, and they're, the Russell Westbrook stuff at the end of the game obviously helped with that. Chalk this up for another bad late game execution that resulted in a win. And as I said on Wednesday's show, following the Tuesday win over Denver, the Wolves are due for some good luck here because they had such bad luck in terms of close late games for much of the season, especially early on. It doesn't give them a pass for how poor the execution was, but sometimes great offense and great individual effort and superstar players can bail you out, and that's what happened with Anthony Edwards here. The Wolves run a sideline out of bounds play. For whatever reason, Ant passes to Rudy, and they run a dribble handoff just above the break on the right side of the floor. And I don't understand that because it's the easiest place to trap someone. And Ant gets trapped just above the break. It's the exact mirror side. His favorite shot is the left side of the floor above the break. This is the mirror side, the other side. And he finally, with the shot clock winding down at the buzzer of the shot clock, rises up, knocks down a crazy 3 to make it a 5-point game. And that's basically it. And that was your final score. Not good execution. I don't know what they were trying to do there. I don't think a dribble handoff in that location where you're just asking them to double team Ant and they're doubling off of Rudy, who's not a threat outside the 3-point line at that point. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do. Ant did the right thing because if he tries to make a heroic pass, skip pass, whatever, it's a turnover and the Sixers could tie it or take the lead, go in the other direction. And so I thought what Ant did was great. And of course, making the shot certainly helps too. And that was it. But again, poor late game execution. And the way we got there was miserable defense. And we'll talk a little bit about Jaden McDaniels. Actually, we could do this now. Jaden McDaniels was really bad in this game. He just really struggled. And he couldn't slow down Quentin Grimes. Eventually, Chris Finch decided to go to Nickeil Alexander-Walker to slow down Quentin Grimes. That didn't really work either. But at least Nickeil was competitive and gave you a little bit on the offensive end of the floor. Jaden was basically did not give effort in this game, is what it seemed like. He made no buckets from the field, 0 of 6, 0 of 2 outside the arc. He only had 3 rebounds in 26 minutes, was a -18, which is the worst mark in the entire game. Either team, the worst plus-minus in the entire game. Nickeil had 7 points. He had 5 assists and no turnovers and was a +14 in 27 minutes. I thought it could have called for more Jalen Clark. That wouldn't have been the worst idea to get more Jalen Clark on the floor. He only played 10 minutes. The Wolves only played 9 guys total, which I guess is par for Minnesota. But, I thought I could have called for more Jalen Clark. Instead, it was more Nickeil. It worked out okay. The rotations were lacking. Randle's effort lacked on the defensive end. It was really Rudy. It was Ant. It was a little bit of Nickeil. Some good moments from Dante DiVincenzo in this game. No one else came to the party. DiVincenzo was spotty. I thought Naz's defensive effort on both ends of the floor was a little spotty. Mike Conley was just kind of fine in this game. Like, I thought, they put him on the floor to help grease the wheels on offense a couple of times late, and I thought that worked out pretty well. But the defensive effort in the fourth quarter was more effort than anything else. And credit Quentin Grimes for hitting a couple of tough shots, but there were also some relatively, not entirely uncontested, but largely uncontested drives to the basket where guys were just getting beat off the dribble one-on-one. And that was it. It was that simple. Not positive for Minnesota for that to be the case. But again, the individual, like the good defense early in the fourth that let them build the lead that they then gave back largely. And then the heroics down the stretch from Ant. I want to talk more about Rudy as well. Rudy was fantastic. Once again, we'll talk about just how good he's been recently and some of the positives in this game for Minnesota, including Ant too. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop only managing your money and instead start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you'll realize just how much you're spending on something silly, I'm sure, like maybe food delivery. That was what it was for me. Instead, you can just budget smarter and save more. And the best part is the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, so Rudy Gobert has been basically the Wolves' best player over the past couple of weeks, and I've heard, I believe in the Wolves broadcast, they're talking about his best stretch of basketball since he's been in Minnesota. I don't think that's too far-fetched. I don't want to completely recency bias this whole thing, but, I mean, you go back, the Wolves have won what? If you go back to the first game when he started recording double-doubles consecutively, they've won 6 out of their last 7 games. The only loss, he had 16-16 in the loss to the Pacers. They lost by 16 on the road to Indiana a couple weeks ago. And since then, he's just been phenomenal. 15-11 in that first game of the stretch, double-doubles ever since. He had the 19-25 game against the Pistons. In this game, he had 23-19. He's been flirting with the 2020 game for a while. And it isn't just that he's racking up rebounds. That's a huge part of it. And to be clear, I had been pretty critical of Rudy not that long ago. I'd done a show a few weeks ago about the most surprising stats this season, or maybe I did one during the All-Star break, and I did a similar kind of topic since then. And Rudy's lack of rebounding to me has been one of the more shocking things this year. And if he finishes the year, the last 5 games or so rebounding like this, I mean, we're going to end up with basically, we're not quite going to get all the way to where he's been for his career rebound wise because he was so far behind, but that rebound rate is slowly inching upward towards a more respectable Rudy Gobert like number because he's just been rebounding the heck out of the ball over the past few weeks. Like it's been unbelievable. And it's not only that either. It's also his availability on offense, his feel for where he needs to be for his teammates to find him. And that then feeds into his availability on offense. And what I mean by that is finding those soft spots in the defense, presenting himself as a target for passes. And then that feeds into his teammates trusting him because they're better opportunities. He's more likely to catch the ball and do damage with it. And teammates are more likely to trust him because of that. It's a little bit of a chicken or the egg type situation. And it's happening. I mean, over the stretch, he's shooting 73% from the floor. He was 10 of 11 against the Phillies, against the Sixers, 9 of 10 the game before. Again, 73% over the last 7 games for Rudy Gobert, and they're 6-1 during the stretch. He's averaging 18.6 points and 16.3 rebounds over that stretch, and almost 2.5 stocks. He has 17 stocks over those 7 games, so nearly 2.5 stocks per game during this stretch. And he's actually got more steals than blocks because, again, it's more about positioning and effort level. And he's doing that on both ends of the floor, finding himself in the right places to present himself to receive passes for lobs, just be in the dunker spot for catches, offensive rebounding as well. I mean, over the stretch, he's averaging nearly 6 offensive rebounds per game, which is just bonkers. I mean, 5.7 offensive rebounds a game is an insane rate. And that's what he's been doing over the 7-game stretch. And he's creating some offense for himself by doing that, of course. And then defensively, again, the block shot numbers aren't crazy, like 1 per game. That's not a crazy number. It's not what he was doing back during his prime with Utah, but it's more about the steals. It's more about the presence. We saw against Brooklyn, there were a host of never minds on Thursday night where guys were just like, nah, I'm not doing this against Rudy Gobert. Even though the blocks are down, guys are just not challenging him. because, and with some of these teams at least. And so it's really been an all-around performance for Rudy. Like, I don't know what else Rudy Gobert's supposed to be doing. And that's not even counting the screen assists, getting into the offense in the half court, which has generally been better as kind of sluggish as it was at times against the Sixers and also against the Nets. The half court offense has been much better over the stretch in every game except that loss to the Pacers. They'd scored, well, I guess I just said the last two games, but in the 5 games before that, they had scored at least 123 points in each of those games. And going back further, like, they've been over 115 in every game, win or loss, except one. And that was the loss to the Pacers. So the offense has been significantly better, and Rudy's actually been a big part of that. And I don't mean that derisively, but he, but a little bit. Like, a lot of times he's just kind of the screen assists and then he cleans up the offensive glass, but he's done more than that. And also free throw shooting. He's just he's 67% from the line, which is a little above his career average. He's been effective at the free throw line too. He's gotten at least 4 free throw attempts in 5 of the last 7 games, which is a positive development for the Wolves offense as well. And it was really him leading the way, setting the tone for Minnesota. Ant was a little bit quiet early, just like he was against the Nets. And then when it was all said and done, Ant stepped up late. It was Rudy's consistent effort throughout, his impact on the defensive end, and then Anthony Edwards late to really kind of cement this thing for Minnesota. Ant down the stretch was awesome. We talked about how great he was against the Nets. He did the same thing again for Minnesota in this game. He was kind of going toe-to-toe, weirdly enough, with Quentin Grimes there for a while. He hit a 3 with 1:20 left. Remember, he had those 2 late threes against Brooklyn. So with the Wolves only up 1, Ant hits the dagger. Well, it's not really a dagger because it only put him up 4, but a huge kind of right back at you 3 with 1:22 left after the Sixers pulled to within 1. Ant hits a 3. The one possession the Sixers didn't score on in the final 4 minutes was the next one. The Wolves get it back on the other end. Ant hits that bank shot that almost puts the game away. Wolves up 6. And then Ant had to hit an actual dagger with them only up 2 with 7 seconds left as the shot clock's winding down. The shot that we opened the show with today, Ant hits that well double teamed in the right slot, and the Wolves win the game by 5. Ant was really brilliant in this game, and it was a high volume scoring night, but still efficient. He had 37 points on 21 shots, 6 of 13 on threes, which is awesome. 7 of 8 at the line, which is great. Only 2 assists, 2 rebounds for Ant. Didn't do a whole lot else. He was actually a -4 in this game, but it was his heroics in the fourth quarter that was so big for Minnesota. The biggest problem for Minnesota offensively in this one, I actually thought the flow was okay, besides being a little bit sluggish, especially early in the game. The biggest culprit was turnovers. And that hasn't been a consistent issue recently. It, of course, was awful early in the year, but they've slowly grown in the turnover category. They had 15 in this game to only 8 for Philadelphia. And that was a major problem. In fact, there was a stretch in the fourth quarter, and actually I think there was another one toward the end of the third quarter, where they just couldn't get out of their own way. It was a Conley turnover. It was an Ant turnover. It was just kind of an ugly stretch. And then Conley turned it over again. That allowed the Sixers to pull closer in the final couple of minutes. That was a big mistake by Mike Conley. The Wolves gave up 22 points off of their 15 turnovers. So Philadelphia definitely could have been a little bit more efficient, but that's why they're this version of the Sixers. Whereas Philly only turned it over, I said 8, I meant 11 times. But 8, I think, live ball turnovers, 11 overall turnovers. And Minnesota had 9 points off of those 11 turnovers. So Minnesota was a little bit more efficient than maybe to be expected, given that there were only 8 live ball turnovers. They forced some shot clock violations from the Sixers as well. Overall, it was the glass dominance, which was primarily Rudy Gobert. It was Ant's heroics at the end, and then also free throw shooting. Minnesota attempted 29 free throws to Philadelphia's 15 in this game, so nearly doubled up Philadelphia on free throws, and they made their free throw attempts. The Sixers missed 6 attempts of their 15, and that helped Minnesota down the stretch. Was the free throw shooting, the rebounding. Otherwise, points to the paint were even. Fast break points were basically even. Turnovers were not in the Wolves' favor. I would call this an uneven performance with, at times, abominable defense, as I said earlier, especially in the fourth quarter. I'm not petrified about where this team sits right now, because these are the sorts of games that maybe early in the year they do actually kick it away. They've got a real chance against tough teams on the road, Milwaukee and Memphis next week, both teams that would like to be in different places than they are, but are undoubtedly better than the Sixers and Nets teams the Wolves just faced the last few days. I mean, Milwaukee is sitting 5th in the Eastern Conference. They have won 3 in a row. And Memphis is actually tied with the Wolves, exact same record as Minnesota. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But a couple of tough road games here as the Wolves close out their road schedule and then head back home at the end of next week. Let's close this conversation. Let's close out this game by talking individual studs and duds. And then we'll look at, we'll peek at the standings and what's up next for Minnesota as well, and where things sit as of this recording in the Western Conference. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting extremely easy. You could just pick the Wolves. You can pick your favorite team. Hopefully it is the Wolves. Or maybe you just want to dive into players props. It's fun to look at Anthony Edwards' three-point attempts. I mean, he had 6 again the other night. He's gone through a little bit of a lull, both accuracy and volume-wise. But it may just be picking the Ant player prop of over-under on three-pointers. Maybe it's steals, assists. We talked about Rudy Gobert steals. I bet you can win a little bit there. FanDuel has a ton of ways to bet your favorite player props. Of course, once we get close to the playoffs, we'll talk some odds as well for the Wolves in the playoffs. Plus, after the games tip off, you can even combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay, which are a ton of fun for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, individual studs and duds from this one. Not too hard to figure this one out. We already talked about Rudy and Ant, so I'll give you their lines real quick. Rudy had 23 and 19, was 10 of 11 shooting, only missed one of those little like floater push shots from like 8 feet that he shoots. He made one and he missed one in this game. 3 of 4 at the line, 19 boards, 8 of them on the offensive end, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. So he turned in 5 stocks in this game. 23 and 19 with 5 stocks and 2 assists, only 1 turnover, was a plus 10 in 36 minutes. Was the best all-around player on the floor, period. Just amazing from Rudy Gobert. Ant was good too. We talked about the heroics late. 37 points, 12 of 21 shooting, 6 of 13 on threes, 7 of 8 at the free throw line. 37 points on 21 shots is fantastic efficiency. Only 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Didn't do a whole lot else, but when you hit the dagger shot late and you keep your offense afloat while your team's defense is not good, you get to be a stud. Ant was great in this game, especially down the stretch. I would say I'm kind of between Nikhil and Dante DiVincenzo for my third stud. I'm going to go Nikhil Alexander-Walker. He had 7 points in this game on 2 of 5 shooting. Did not make a 3, weirdly enough, but also weirdly, he got to the line 4 times, made 3 free throws, 5 assists, and no turnovers. Led the team in assists in this game, and was big down the stretch when we had some bad moments from Mike Conley. We had some bad moments from Jaden McDaniels. It was a nice performance from Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and even though he only had 7 and 5, he, in my mind, is the third stud in this game. A nice game from DiVincenzo, a bit uneven. He did hit 3 threes, but he struggled a little bit at times. I don't think he was very good defensively. He turned it over 3 times, but he was probably the Wolves' 4th best player if we want to go a layer deeper. Duds in this game, also pretty easy. Jaden McDaniels is the headliner here. 2 points on 0 of 6 shooting, 0 of 2 outside the arc, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 1 turnover, and a minus 18, a game worst minus 18 in a game the Wolves won by 5 in 26 minutes. So bad that he lost the Grimes assignment and was not on the floor down the stretch for Minnesota. Not a very good performance for Jaden, and I would say he's been one of the primary culprits when it comes to playing down to competition here of late. As good as Jaden had been for a long time, and I've talked a lot about that on the show, like he's had some uneven performances. He was okay against Denver in the double overtime game, not an efficient shooting night, but I thought he did some good stuff. He was not good against the Pistons the game before that. I don't think he was particularly good against the Nets the other night. It's been, I mean, the Suns game, I guess he was good, but like you kind of got to go back to the 8-game winning streak when he was firing on all cylinders and he was a true offensive threat. And over that streak, he was averaging like 12 and 7 or something. Like he was actually really, really good on both ends of the floor and on the glass. I mean, in this stretch, like since the long winning streak ended, if you go back to that first Pacers loss, he's only got more than 5 rebounds in a game 4 times over the last 8 games, which is not 9 games, which is not enough. And offensively, he's only been in double figures 4 out of the last 8. And he'd been in a stretch before that. He had been in double figures every single game from February 1st until March 17th. So for 6 weeks, he was in double figures every game, and now only 4 out of the last 8 has he been in double figures. And it's not actually only 3 out of the last 8. Not a good run for Jaden McDaniels, and he was not good in the Sixers game overall. I would also say, in terms of duds, I would give the next one to Naz Reid, 9 points and 7 rebounds, but he shot 4 of 10. He missed all 5 threes he took. He had 5 turnovers in this game and just kind of seemed a little out of it. It was a weird performance. And I, you could split that and give some of it to Julius Randle, 15 points on 11 shots, 5 of 9 at the free throw line for Julius. Both Randle and Reid did some good things in this game, but they also both did some pretty bad things. So I guess I'd go Jaden gets one dud, and then you split the other between Randle and Naz. And Mike Conley had a couple bad turnovers late. And same deal where he hit a couple of nice shots, was actually a team high plus 17, but those turnovers were bad. He was ineffective defensively. It was just kind of another one of those mixed bag performances for Mike. But that's how I see the individual performances. Really a weird game when it comes to that, because you had two guys that just played amazing in Rudy and Ant. You had a couple, Nikhil was mostly good, and you had some guys that were really mixed bag performances, and then Jaden really brought some stuff down. It was overall just a weird game from the Wolves, and hopefully they can work some kinks out here. They get a couple of days off Sunday, off Monday, before they're back in action Tuesday at Milwaukee. Speaking of, Tuesday at Milwaukee, Thursday at Memphis. That's the front end of a back-to-back. So they close this road trip with 2 road games. Memphis is, of course, fighting for, I guess not their playoff lives, but their non-play-in lives, kind of like Minnesota is. Actually, exactly like Minnesota is. The difference is Memphis just lost like 5 in a row after firing Taylor Jenkins. Now they've won 2 in a row. Minnesota, Memphis, and the Clippers all are 46-32. As of this recording, which is like late on Sunday, that's where we're at. There's still a couple of games happening on Sunday. The only one that really has playoff implications in the West, at least Wolves implications, would be Denver. As of this recording, they're early against the Pacers. I take that back. Golden State still plays tonight. So we're scoreboard watching. And by the time you listen to this, it's going to look a little bit different. But as of this recording, the Wolves, Clippers, and Grizzlies all are 46-32. The Warriors are a half game ahead. And tonight, Golden State takes on Houston. So if Golden State loses, we're talking a 4-way tie between 5 and 8 in the Western Conference. And in that instance, the Wolves, I believe, would have the win in terms of tiebreaker if all 4 teams ended up tied, because they have the best record in the conference among those teams. Although they lose the head-to-head against Golden State and Memphis if they were tied individually with those teams. So a lot of possibilities. Minnesota's only a game out of 4th with Denver, and they have that tiebreaker. They're also tied for 8th. And they would lose a tiebreaker to Memphis if them and Memphis ended up tied for 7th and 8th. So a lot can still happen. And of course, on tomorrow's show, we'll preview the matchup against Milwaukee. We haven't seen the Bucks in a while. And of course, they look a little different. And then looking ahead to Memphis on Thursday is going to be a ton of fun. Also, quick plug, I'll be hosting the postcast. Actually, all 3 games this week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll be hosting the postcast with Jack Borman, filling in for Luke this week. So look forward to seeing you over at Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube following the game tomorrow night, and also Thursday, and also Friday. And of course, those shows are also posted to the audio feed. So the last episode before this one in your audio feed was actually the post-game pod with Luke and Jack on Saturday night after the Sixers game. So check that out if you missed it, and we'll see you live at Locked On Sports Minnesota tomorrow night. I'll be back again tomorrow. We'll preview the Bucks game as well as hit a couple of other topics. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder, you can subscribe to the daily Locked On Wolves newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. One stop for ultimate Wolves and NBA coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I've been Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.